transfer, presenteering, Schadenfreude's subject change, Antichrist non-awareness, imperialistic incapacitation, totalitarian futility, all invasion of initial space, all unconstitutional. And all of that's classified under Polis financing. And the reason that it doesn't work is that it deals with an isometric of quantum physics, thermodynamics, where you're looking at something unknown, assuming that it is known. And that's why it never works. You'll never actually get to that point. You have to deal with holy things in a holy context. Basically, it's the Randian proposition of it can't be brought back down sort of thing. That's the heroic element of man, the light that never turns off, so to speak, the idea that you're always becoming the hero, yourself, that you are, how all that works, and it's literally written into the physical law of the universe. So like your complacency, lethargy, brooding, interference, that sort of thing, all wrong. And then they would classify the interference phenomena as something that is willed. So as you take this bad physic, assuming something to be known that is unknown, and then limiting it to a certain presentation or categorical that's false, thus no conversions on the Temple Mount sort of thing, that the resulting clash between an outlet, it's not 1 plus 1, it's like 1 times 1 plus 1 times 2, so it's like a FOIL problem in math, rather than just a simplistic addition. So by assuming a simplistic addition, you get polarity. By assuming a non-FOIL, there's no such thing as religion, you don't exist, you're a slave, this is the context, here's totalitarian duality, here's imperialism, here's quad duality, then you get basically kind of implosions mathematically, but it doesn't transfer in terms of an unlimited context. So an unknown, the greater unknown, God is everything, existence is everything, the regenerative properties, my cup flow over sort of thing. There's always enough. The bread and the loaves are the candles that never go out. It's the same thing. You don't get that event. That event occurs when you do not know the summation of the total of something that does exist. But that you must be looking at that thing and the result of that thing in order to see where the quantum threshold is and occurs, where the interference phenomena occurs. And it itself occurs naturally, but it's at the far end of subtle emotions and psychicness and every other thing. It means you ran into a thing, not a thing ran into you. So for something arbitrary, like a person's personal tastes from one person to the next person, which is just the bleed of experience. It's a reaction. Having a personality is a reaction. It's useless. Violence. Images, all of that. It deals with nothing holy. So this falsity, that you can take some sort of falsetto and apply it to a bass, and you get some sort of ramifications of a garden or a flow or an imperative or an initial or a generation even. It's not, it's a traction, it's a cancer, it's a bullet coming in the back door, Your door will work good now, Distinction is achieved. It never gets to the point of fruition when you come in that way, and that's no matter what you have as the operating context or the operational definition of the operating context of the third eye or third party judging the thing, because the actual judge, so to speak, that third party, that third eye, is the space between the binary, and that's the sort of thing that you are intuiting to and from and through. There's more energy in that than anything. There's more energy in the space between a nucleus and an electron. There's a grid in there. You can split the grid. There's more energy in there to like the millionth degree than there is in like an atomic bomb or a, whatever the electron one is, or the proton, whatever. Way more energy. That is the judge, which is reality sort of thing, and now God's on your back, so to speak. The whole universe is with you sort of thing is how that works. It's how blessings occur. It's how prophets work. It's how priests work. It's how energy work works. It's how knowledge works. Transferring information from the holy realm. Little pictures and things, how symbols work. That's what is moving. So if you interfere with that, you put a clasp on it, you make a judgment, you start mutating the thing that's in there and creates a cancer because it's not supersymmetrical. Supersymmetry is the strength, like nanotubes and things like that. It occurs in that grid. It occurs that way. It's not how much quantity of glue or something, how much love or emotion or time or whatever I waste on this thing that'll never be better than zero. Better off not investing. A, B, C, D, E. And you get your ABD and whatever else. The cost of doing things then is very, very small. You can change the world by moving one stone sort of thing. It's your faith element, so to speak. It's not how much I believe going out this way. It's not my conscious will sort of thing. It's how much you've surrendered your unconscious will to the ineffable. Is how that replicates. Healing properties, whatever. Dimensional travel, understanding, all of that. That's what submission means. And then if you can get what you've done in the ineffable realm to transfer to the physical realm, which is more where you run with the cross-section of Egyptology and the black spectrum and whatever else, how does this carry over past the point of myself being that light sort of thing? So sinner's prayer and whatever else, it's meant to align you with Buddhist enlightenment. It does nothing for the other stuff, or it does only a little bit, and then you get it all wrong by thinking it's this calendar of will because Nietzsche was correct, or whatever. You end up in the wrong place. So you yourself as the light, having surrendered to this greater context, this unknown, you'll have 2 more points, basically. And Taoism is one school of thought. It's open, it encompasses everything, but there's the drift Buddhism context incorporated with Taoism, and that's where constitutionality is, that whole block. And there's a specific way of doing that, vouched for via all of the Western change. This is the Eastern coming into the Western, and it happens at constitutionality. So that's your Kabbalah, that's your yes turning into no, that's your good, your cornerstone, your separate anthology, so to speak, of war symbolism. So where words come to blows is like where numbers become letters, and so we try to keep things more on the where numbers become letters sort of thing, and that's standard interaction rather than I have to fight you over this, or let's arm wrestle, or whatever else. So holy men are strong men. It's the truth. And that happens in America. So if you get to the point then of sort of I am higher field prophecy, then your greater unknown is centered above you and working for you. And then you can, from that consciousness, be aware of a specific problem. It's your third point, shadow, and then you end the shadow, so to speak, Marxist. So, just a little by the way, you know, you put this one point right here and phrase this a certain way, the whole house is clean. You know, you don't have to do the witchcraft, you don't have to do the slaughtering chickens, you don't have to do the whatever. It's done. You know, this is this point. And so that would be your jump then from the terminology of quantum physics occurs within the self, dealing with unknown. That's your jump. So to move yourself forward requires there being a reality for the self to move forward in. So that's your point in space, is how that ends up being. So it's not space between the binary, it's not point spectrum, 5 things, all of those things. It's one point in space, which is the constitutional terminology and how 5/2 applies to 1/2 at 2. It's how the military functions, how the law functions, how everything gets boiled down. So no black power, no white power, just reality. No invasion of initial space, no allotments for crime. No room for incorrectness, all of its facets. And is a very literal way, pyramid, building, to ascend various coordinates. And it doesn't have to be from an unknown context, which is then the expiration of masonry. It's that masonry's finished is one way of putting it, or masonry lost is another way of putting it. So all the questions about that presenteering and so on, you don't need them. You just have a building. And then there's pure Stalinism, basically.